Okay, welcome everybody to class number 6. I always try to conserve this last class as an opportunity for all of you to ask any amount of questions you want to ask about pool. I call it everything you always wanted to know about pool but were afraid to ask. And it's not going to be a Woody Allen movie, but just anything of your curiosity, I'll be more than happy to demonstrate. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about English, okay? And we haven't really covered it to this point. But I think I would be remiss if we didn't at least talk about the reasons why we use English. And I think you've learned so far that, you know, one of my, I think, important lessons is that sometimes when we learn English, we tend to overuse it. And the reason for that is, and let me kind of just explain that, you know, a cue ball is round. So what English is, as far as a definition, is hitting the cue ball either to the left side, the left hemisphere, or the right hemisphere. All right? And because the cue ball is round, if I hit it firm on the right side like that, what happens to the cue ball? Does anybody know?
It spins.
All right, it spins, but before it spins, what does it do? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It deflects.
Deflects.
Yeah. So it does both. You're absolutely right. It will spin, but if you hit it firmly enough, because it's round, it'll deflect off to the left side. And then it'll take the spin and maybe curve a little bit the other way after it slows down. And that's the reason why we miss so many balls when we use English. And the distance from the object ball to the cue ball is really important too. Because if I have a lot of distance, let's say I'm shooting the one in the corner pocket, and I decide for some reason that I need left English, and I have to hit it from this distance firmly, well, I actually have to compensate. Okay? In other words, because of the deflection to the right, because I'm hitting the left side of the cue ball, I have to aim a little bit further to this side. And this is something that you learn automatically over time when you learn English. But in the beginning, like in this class, this is an introductory class, you want to master the center axis, the vertical axis. Because that's tough enough, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
All right? But once you master the vertical axis, you can start making balls all over the table with high ball, center ball stun, and draw. You can really do most everything you need to do as far as positioning the cue ball. But the English is more for, I would say, more advanced players that want to do, you know, shots that require tremendous precision, you know, to actually, you know, do what they want to do. And when you think about it, it's, you know, I've often heard people use this metaphor with pocket billiards. You know, it's a little bit like doing brain surgery. Because when you think about it, every little tiny millimeter, one side or the other on the cue ball, affects what it does. And that's why it's so hard. All right? I remember the movie A League of Your Own. Does anybody remember that about baseball? Yeah. And where the women took over. And I remember Tom Hanks told the best player on the team who was about to quit, what really makes baseball so great is the heart, because it's so hard. And I think that's why you see so many people infatuated with the game of pocket billiards, because it is so hard. And requires, you know, a tremendous amount of practice. And, you know, any questions so far? You want me to demonstrate a few English shots, why we use them?
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
How do you know how much to adjust for deflection?
That is a very complicated question.
Oh, okay.
With a complicated answer. The amount will depend on how much speed you have. In other words, the harder you hit the cue ball, the more it will deflect. All right? So, and also the distance from the object ball to the cue ball. And the only way you can really learn that is by practicing. All right? But I do want to demonstrate real quick a few shots and why we do use English. Could you slide over there to a little bit? Yeah, that's good. This particular shot I have set up here. I'm going to pocket the 11 ball in the corner, a fairly simple shot. Now let's start out with a shot that, let's say I want to get positioned for the 14 next. Do I need any English on this shot? The camera, I don't want to stand. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. Yeah,
I didn't know.
Yeah. No problem.
Forgot the camera.
Yeah, it's okay. All right, do I need any English to make the 11?
No.
You get this? No, I don't, do I? Because naturally the cue ball is going to go one rail, I'm going to hit a rolling ball that comes to about right there. A pretty simple shot. You know, my general pre-shot routine. So I have a very simple shot in the side pocket like that. Now, let's say the 14 ball is right there. And I want to get position from here. So if I did the center ball, rolling ball, I would end up somewhere here with a very difficult shot. Okay. So how could I make this shot with maybe a little bit of English and make my next shot real simple and easy? Yeah, right English, exactly. And I don't need a whole lot, do I? I'll just put a little bit of right English, about one Q-tip, like that. And roll towards the ball. In fact, that's the idea. You always want the cue ball to go into the line of your next shot. Okay. All right, let's try another one. Let's say my next shot's over here. All right, if I want to get a nice easy shot where I can just get right here and make sure that I make it, what kind of English would I use on this one? A little left, right. And this one, you notice center ball came here, a little right English came over here. Now left English, does anybody want to point on the rail where they think they'll hit?
How much little English did you do to send it there? How much English?
I put about a half tip. I could have used a little more. I could have come down here. In fact, I would have liked it to come to this diamond because then it would run right towards the ball. And the more English you put, the wider the spread. So that's what English does. It extends the spread of the cue ball off the first rail.
More variables.
Yeah, I know.
Variables.
Yeah. Now, this one I'll probably put a little more English because I'd like to get it somewhere close to the 14. So we're going to use
One quick question.
Go ahead. Yeah.
If you put hit on the left side of the ball,
Yeah.
so we spin this way,
Yeah.
like that one spin the opposite way then?
Well, it does affect the object ball a little bit, but let's not worry about that. Because, you know, that's just another variable to that would be something for an advanced class. We would talk a little bit about that. But for right now, I just want you to realize that when it hits the rail with that left English, instead of coming here or here with center or right, it should come probably about this direction. Okay.
Is that center left or low left? High left?
We're just using center ball. Yeah, and we're just hitting a rolling ball. All right, so I'll do my whole pre-shot routine. Lay my Q-tip right on the left side of the ball. You notice when you hit the rail, it goes straight across. Look at the difference. Center ball came here, rolling ball. Left English came here.
So left English will go left and right English is going to go right.
Yeah. If I use right English, it spreads way down here. In fact, just to show you how much the English can affect the ball, let's say I want to use a full Q-tip or even more, 2 full tips of English. When I used about a half tip, it came here. Where do you think it'll go if I use extreme right English?
You can scratch.
Yeah, just about. Maybe not scratch unless I get low, but it's going to be way down there. So we'll just hit a center ball, rolling ball. This time I'm going to use a lot of English. About that second time. And if I used low with right English, I would have gone way down there. Anyway, I just thought you'd be interested in learning that because, depending on how far you go in pocket billiards, you'll be playing players in leagues or tournaments that do all the tricks like that. Like when I play in league and tournaments, I'm usually playing really good players. And, if I miss a ball, it's pretty much, I'm going to lose the game. That's how good certain players can be, to spend, 30 or 40 years playing this game. But that's the beauty of pocket billiards. It doesn't matter what level you are. It's about having fun.
Yeah, that's what we tell kids.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all I want. Go ahead.
Question.
Yeah.
Now, when you did put English on that, that changes the trajectory of this one? Did you get it the same as normally would?
Well, remember, we weren't going to address that. You're talking about the impact of the English on the
That's the
object.
same question, okay?
Yeah. Let me just, since you've asked it a few times, I will. If the cue ball has right English like that, this is only slightly. The cue ball with right English is going to turn the 5 ball a little bit, slightly microscopically to the left.
Just a little.
Yeah, but not enough to make a huge difference.
Okay.
All right?
You mean bring it up a second?
No, that's
That's
fine.
a question.
That's fine. But you can see how thinking about all that stuff's going to mess you up.
I won't say tonight. I'll be visualizing.
That's why you want to learn one thing at a time when you're learning this game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get frustrated. All right, any other questions about English? All right, probably another thing that would be very helpful to you is sometimes you have shots like this. I'll show you. Let's say you have the 8 here and you're just about ready to win the game and your cue ball is here. Well, how would I get position on that 8 so I have an easy shot? Anybody know?
You're shooting a 5.
Yeah.
I think I just shoot it lightly and just try to end up right over
Yeah.
here.
All right. That's what I had in mind. But by using English, I can actually slow it down when it hits the rail. So what kind of English would I use to slow the cue ball down when it hits the rail? Now, if I use right English, it's going to hit the rail and speed up. We call that running. All right. But if I go with left English, that's called reverse English. It's actually going to slow the cue ball down. I'll show you what I mean. And this is a fast table. Normally, if I shot that ball with a normal center ball or right English, it would come way out like that. So we use English to slow the ball down. Here's another example of that. I use a lot of left English. Yeah, I hit the rail and just kind of died. But if you use outside English, we call it, or running English, watch what it does when it hits the rail. It comes all the way up there. So it speeds it up and slows it down. Yeah, go ahead.
To slow down the cue ball, could you do left English and also draw?
Well, yeah, I use a little draw to kind of kill it too. That will slow it down too. Let me explain that since Lana asked. That's a good question. The draw helps to slow it down because when I hit the cue ball low, it spins backwards for a little bit, and then it slides, and that slows the ball down. If I just hit it above center and it rolls, it's going to go with pretty good pace. But hitting it lower will spin it backwards and slow it down. Okay. All right, we're going to do our short rack 8 ball today. Is there any other questions you want to ask me before we get to that?
Are you going to go over this tournament the handicap?
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk about that. Now, if you do play in tournaments, there's several different types of tournaments that they have, that you'll run into. In fact, there's a new one called chip tournaments. Has anybody heard of that? That's where everybody, depending on their rating, will get so many chips to start with. And guess what? When you lose a game, you have to give up one of those chips. And when you lose all your chips, you're out. All right? And I've run those in this class before. But the fun part about that is that if you're the last one standing with a chip, you win the tournament. All right? Which is kind of really good.
So we get a chip that wins, and you get an additional chip.
Actually, when you win a game, you just keep what you have. But if you lose, you have to give it up. All right. And then there's also double elimination. That means that you have to lose twice before you're eliminated. And what happens when you lose a match, you go into what we call the loser's bracket. But when you get in the loser's bracket, you can go all the way through the loser's bracket and still win the tournament, which is kind of cool. All right. Another example is what we're going to do today. We're going to do a round robin, which means you're going to play everybody. And the best record, whoever has the best record, come out on top. It's not going to be really that competitive. I just want you to have fun playing each other. So. And then finally, handicapping is something that has leveled the playing field for pool players all over the world. There's a thing called the Fargo rating, and that's international as well. Like my Fargo rating, I know it was 649. And depending on your Fargo rating will dictate how much weight you have to give your opponent. And that's all I'm going to say, because it gets real complicated from there. Because there's so many variables, like a lot of things in the field. But if you pursue the game further in the tournaments and leagues, you become very intimate with your Fargo rating, because it'll be very important to how your opponent will either have to give you weight or you will have to give them. And when I say weight, that might be gains on the wire in a race so much, or it could mean other things as well.
So if you're playing like one of the local tournaments here,
right.
Would they pit like somebody like me, not that good, with somebody like you? I don't think that would be quite.
Well, occasionally that happens, but that would be discouraging, because what they try to do is they'll have Fargo ratings and under. Like, for example, they might have a tournament for 500 and under, and that would be more average players. And you'll be playing players more in your level. Just like tennis and and pickleball and all these other sports, they have ratings, and that will determine how you play and they play.
So you need that Fargo rating to play in the tournaments?
A lot of tournaments, if you don't have a Fargo rating, they will assess your skill level and give you a starter rating. But that's, that can be, because there's a thing in tournaments called sandbagging. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
And that's where you get somebody that enters a tournament and says they're such and such, and they're really a lot better than you. And that's why the Fargo rating came about, is because it is international. And whenever you play in a tournament, the results of the tournament are immediately put into the computer and will contribute to your Fargo rating. And I think the reason why they call it Fargo is the people that invented the system are from Fargo, North Dakota. You know, which I've been to. I don't know, you probably never been there.
That's a good place for indoor games.
Yeah, absolutely. It's older than, yeah, you know. All right, anything else? Questions? Are we ready to learn short rack e-ball and play
Sure.
games? Okay. I just want to show you the rack real quick. I think I did this when you're racking the balls. Just the 4 solids, 4 stripes, and an 8-ball. And you can use Mike's Magic Rack if you want. And I'll show you how that works.
Looks pretty good.
Just put it up so that little spot is in the middle and it's lined up like this. And the only requirement is the 8 in the middle. You can rack them any way you want, solids and stripes. But we'll play it just like we would normal 8-ball, just using 9 balls. And if you want, you can flip a coin to see who breaks, or you can lag. Do you all know what lagging means?
I do, I don't know how it works though.
All right. Well, when you lag for the break, your opponent will lag on one side, you lag on the other. And whoever rolls the ball closest to the rail, and you can use object balls or a cue ball, it doesn't really matter. So you want to, get the correct speed down close to the rail as you possibly can. And you'll notice that it's okay to hit the rail.
Okay.
It's just, let's see, I've got about 4 or 5 inches. If my opponent was any closer, they would be able to choose to break.
Gotcha.
That might be more fun to lag.
Yeah.
All right, we got 5 players. Maybe one of you could, play with me since you don't have an opponent right off the bat. Just have some fun doing that. Anyway, who would like to play in the end table? How about Mike and Cliff? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Just one game and let me know how it goes, and I'll be walking around to help you out. We'll get Ron and Nyla here, and Patrick and I will play here. Okay. Is that okay?
You don't have to play with me if you don't want to. I'm a nice guy. But, Wait, you're down here.